last Thursday, rather, 1 week ago today, President Trump goes to, what was it? It's in Michigan, Potterville, Michigan, gives a talk, because I don't understand, he goes, I'm announcing today that my administration government is going to require, we're going to mandate that all the government and all companies, all insurance companies have to cover all the expenses of IVF because we want lots and lots of babies IVF. A maelstrom of opposition, this and his intimation that he was going to support Proposition 4 in Florida, led to a lot of people that were boosters, Trump boosters, especially pro-lifers, saying, what in the wide world of sports is going on here? No. Well, that policy has been, I haven't heard it since. He also came out the next day. I think he heard us loud and clear, heard you loud and clear, and said, no. I didn't mean to say that. No, I am opposed to Amendment 4 in Florida, Initiative 4. It's a terrible thing. They'll use it to kill many, many babies. No. But the issue of in vitro fertilization is struck around. And I think that most people have no clue of what in vitro fertilization actually is or what it entails. All they know is like, my family was saved. My family was made whole because of a baby that came from it. And look, some of you are listening right now. I'm not talking to you. I'm not trying to insult you. I'm not trying to impugn you. I'm not saying that you're any less of a person, that your child is any less of a wonderful child of God. I'm not saying anything of the sort, but because that's how this is kind of being framed. What are you saying to that? No. But for the future, I think that people may want to know what in vitro is all about. Here, Brother André Marie. IVF is the flip side of the contraception coin. Contraception is sex without babies. IVF is babies without sex. Both separate what God has joined together. Both are wrong. Only the Catholic Church as an institution maintains moral sanity on these issues. If the Church were the evil anti-sex organization her libertine critics make her out to be, she would love to have found a way to have babies without the carnal pleasures of the marriage bed. But, being bound to the truth taught her by her bridegroom, she maintains her insistence on the one flesh procreative union of matrimony. And with that, we jump off of the Twitter and onto the Comrex, where Brother André Marie of the St. Benedict Center in Richmond, New Hampshire, is standing by. Brother, good morning. How are you?
I'm well. Good morning to you, Mike, and our listeners.
Viewers and listeners.
Oh, viewer. Well, they're not viewing me. Thank God for that.
Oh, no, I got pictures of you, brother.
They're not viewing me.
Oh, yes, they are. I have pictures of you.
Oh, no. Okay.
People like him pictures, brother. I mean, I got the good ones. They're the good ones of you.
Okay, all right, good. Not the dartboard, right? Not the dartboard.
Not the dartboard picture. Brother, when last I looked at this, there were 45,000 or so souls had viewed your tweet, and about 44,000 of them were angry at you.
Well, it's up to 79.5 thousand now.
Oh, okay, so 70.
I just got it up because I wanted to see what we're talking about. I wanted to remind myself of what I said.
Okay, so 78,000 of them are angry at you. But I have to say, and this is a compliment, so accept it in the charity in which it's given. You're very calm under fire. You very calmly, even when people just ad hominem attack you, you respond with, well, I'm sorry you feel that way or you think that way, but, that doesn't change the teaching, and I'm going to pray for you that you come around. I think that's the right way to answer them. And there are a lot of people out there, brother, that are really just mal-educated on this. Yeah. They genuinely just don't know what IVF actually does.
Yeah. That's true. And that's why. I mean, that's why Mr. What's his first name? Mr. Joshua. What's his first name? The guy that's been making such a huge hit.
Joshua Charles.
Joshua Charles. That's right. He's been. I knew it's two first names. I forget which one was first. Joshua Charles. He makes some excellent points about don't go on Twitter and just start flaming out at people because it gets nowhere. Just witness to the truth.
That's right.
And when people snipe at you, answer with the truth. You can ignore the snipes if you want, but don't get into this nasty tit for tat thing because it doesn't help. It just doesn't. So I've been trying to follow that kind of rule, which I think is profoundly Christian, and instead of just taking it as an opportunity to body slam people. I mean, I am André, but I'm not André the Giant. Anyway, the idea is let's just witness to the truth. That's why I wrote a fairly calm thing, just trying to connect certain dots. And a lot of people's minds do get opened up by this. They think, I never heard that before. That makes sense to me now. I get it. But the church has multiple reasons why she opposes IVF, and the particular technology that we have in IVF now is abortifacient. 9 out of 10 children, let's use the right names, 9 out of 10 children conceived by IVF will either die, be willfully destroyed after the successful implantation of one of them, or will be frozen. Now, if the couple wants to pay more, by the way, you shell out something like $28,000 to get this to happen.
Wow.
If you want to pay more for rental space in a freezer, they can be kept under cryonic suspension indefinitely. I heard a case recently where children were just born to somebody the fertilized ovum, or in other words, the children, were frozen since 1992.
Wow.
What is going to happen? We don't know the long-term effects of this freezing a child, a conceived child, outside of its mother's womb, freezing it, and then implanting it later. We have no idea what kind of damage could have been caused. It's completely unethical on that score alone. Now, there are also other issues. For one thing, depending upon how it goes, you can have somebody who's not if it's a married couple who wants to have children, but the man's infertile. Well, they're paying somebody. Pardon me. I'll say this chastely as possible. They're paying somebody to commit the sin of pollution in a cup.
Yes.
Okay, they're paying a man to commit the sin of pollution in a cup. That in itself is wrong. The sin of pollution is always wrong. It's malum in se, as we say in moral theology. It's evil in itself. Now, there's also the fact that on the female side, because getting the female gametes aren't so simple as getting the male contribution to the child, they have to go through the very expensive and involved procedure of extracting the eggs from the woman. And because it's so expensive, because it's a difficult thing, they want to make it worth their while. So what do? When they pay the women to do this, and sometimes it's the actual mom if it's a married couple, but sometimes it's some other woman that they want a dream baby,
surrogate,
and they do it, blonde, blue-eyed, whatever. So they pay somebody who's cash strapped, because no first world affluent woman's going to do this. They pay someone who's cash strapped. Oftentimes it's college students because they advertise in college newspapers, and they say, help some woman to have a child. They try to make it look like you're doing a wonderful thing and getting paid for it. And what do? They give them drugs to make them hyperovulate, which is bad for the woman. Okay, it's bad for the woman. And there have been women who have almost died from this procedure. There have been women who have been rendered infertile because of what it does to their reproductive system. So there's that. Now, so it's abortifacient. It causes the murder of 9 out of 10 of those children. Then it encourages the sin of pollution, without which you can't have it. Which, by the way, one of the Catholic names for pollution is onanism, which covers two sins. It's the sin of contraception, and it's the sin of pollution. And why is it called that? Because Onan was struck dead by God for doing it, right? He withdrew so that he wouldn't raise up a child to his dead brother. Long story about Jewish law and the next youngest brother marrying the deceased brother's wife. So the firstborn child can be considered that first brother's, who's now dead, his legal child, so they can be his heir. So but what's the real issue? Now, there are all kinds of other things that are wrong with it. For one thing, it's a gateway to a whole bunch of other, even more evil technologies, like the genetic manipulation of the children. Once they're conceived, now they can be genetically manipulated. Why? Because they're in a petri dish, right? You can now do stuff that you can't do when they're safely in mommy. And,
you see, I didn't even know that part.
Oh my goodness, Mike! It's Frankensteinian. It makes Frankenstein look innocent by comparison. They're actually editing the genetic makeup of children. There was a Chinese scientist who did this, and what he said to justify what he did, which would have been considered illegal, I think, even in China.
This is the CRISPR chameleon guy.
CRISPR, exactly. Now, what this guy said was, well, people think this is unethical now, but people used to think that IVF was unethical, 50 years ago. And my, how things have changed. And so he actually hitched his cart, morally speaking, to the horse of IVF, saying, well, people used to think that was bad, and we know now it's so great. This technology that I'm developing, in a few years, people will think it's wonderful. Now, he's probably right in as much as people will be deluded into thinking it's wonderful. But and he is right for saying that if one's good, the other's okay, but they're both bad. Now, but what's the church's fundamental beef with it? It's not because it's abortifacient. That's not the fundamental beef. Yes, but in theory, it can be done without committing abortions. Now, that's in theory. In practice, it's not done. Because, again, 9 out of 10 of more children, people have run the numbers, more children have died from IVF than have died from so-called therapeutic abortions committed in abortion clinics.
That's shocking. That's shocking.
More deaths, more murdered children via, and when I say murdered, I mean they're destroying these fertilized ova, which are actually children, right? More of them are being directly killed by IVF than are being killed by the normal procedure of abortion in this country. Now, so the church obviously objects to that. But there's a more fundamental objection, because even if the technology can be done in a way, which it can't, but even if it could be done in a way that you don't have all those abortions, you still have one huge problem. And this is where the Catholic Church has been so right for so long, and so few people appreciate it. I'm quoting from a document I rarely quote, but it's good. The Catechism of the Catholic Church says the spouse's union, meaning the sexual union, achieves the twofold end of marriage: the good of the spouses themselves, that's what we call that the unitive end, and the transmission of life, we call that the procreative end. These two meanings or values of marriage cannot be separated without altering the couple's spiritual life and compromising the goods of marriage and the future of the family. The conjugal love of man and woman thus stands under the twofold obligation of fidelity and fecundity. There's a lot packed into that one paragraph, number 2363 of the Catechism of the Catholic Church. But if you go further down, when they unpack this from the end, not of contraception, but of IVF, they say that techniques that entail the disassociation of husband and wife by the intrusion of a person other than the couple, donation of sperm or ovum, surrogate uterus, are gravely immoral. These techniques, heterologous artificial insemination and fertilization, infringe the child's right to be born of a father and mother known to him and bound to each other by marriage. They betray the spouse's right to become a father and a mother only through each other. Techniques involving only the married couple homologous instead of heterologous, homologous artificial insemination and fertilization are perhaps less reprehensible. By the way, with the first one, with heterologous, you can have 5 parents, quote unquote, 5 quote unquote parents. No, the 5 doesn't have a quote. 5 quote unquote parents. What does that mean? You have sperm donor, you have egg donor, you have rent a uterus.
That's 3.
That's 3. And then you have mommy and daddy, the ones that end up raising the child.
So 5.
5. Now, not even California, I think, has updated its birth certificates to show 5. They only show 4 parents. But this procedure allows for 5. So I mean, if somebody doesn't immediately see that that's morally reprehensible, I think you have a little bit of a problem.
Brother, quickly, Brother André Marie, the St. Benedict Center, who you can find hiding in plain sight at Catholicism.org. Brother, because I want to get a couple of things in here before we run out of time for the network audience. And one of them is this. That doesn't even include these monsters that are running around, that are running some of these fertility clinics. And at least one of them, they made us, Maggie, you and I watched a documentary on this. At least one of these monsters was, go pollute in a cup. He wasn't even using the donated pollution. He was substituting his own. So now and then you have sperm donors, close quote, sperm donors running around. There's an instance in Sweden where one guy was finally the Swedes had to tell him, like, you got to stop. You have now basically compromised the entire sperm supply. So this ultimately is going to lead to inbreeding. You're going to have horrible first-generation inbreedings if this were to continue. That is a real, not a theoretical, that is a real, actually has been materialized risk of this. And no one is talking about that part of it.
Yeah, this is, look, it's deliverance. I mean, we make fun of people that live in poor areas of the South and Appalachia and so forth, and oh, look, the retarded kid playing the banjo and all that. But the brave new world is actually not making pretty perfect designer babies. We're inbreeding. I mean,
yes.
What's happened? This is not an evolution. This is a devolution. Emphasis on the devil part, I guess. But this is not going to lead to bliss and happiness and wonderfulness. Some of these as Leila Lawla pointed out, these people, there's more than one instance of these people doing this. And she said, go figure, people who work in that industry can be creepy.
Yeah, gee, I wonder.
Which I thought was hilarious because it was Carol, I forget her last, Carol Everett, God bless her heart. She was an abortionist who experienced this major conversion away from abortion. She was an abortionist in Texas. Actually, she ran an abortion clinic. She wasn't a physician. She didn't perform them, but she was she made the money. She was a business lady. She talked about how the abortion industry is so horrible because it's filled with horrible people, and that abortion clinics are horrible places to work at. People are always screaming at each other, yelling at each other. It's just a terrible place. You got creepy people that murder babies for a living. Well, guess what? You got creepy people who make designer quote-unquote babies in fertility clinics using IVF. So you got preverts, like your dad would say, who were doing this. And some of them, like that one guy in Sweden, 550 children. The Swedish government said, no, you got to stop. So he's creating a shallow end of the gene pool himself when his half sibling offspring end up meeting oblivious to where they came from.
Another half sibling offspring, bammo.
Yes.
There was one that had over 1,000 siblings.
Yeah, and there was another. Look, there have been documentary shows that we have. What was the name of it?
It's called Our Father.
Our Father. This guy had over 1,000 children. He lied for 20 some odd years. He lied.
And he was in Indiana, so he had over 1,000 children. And one guy did a DNA test with that 33andMe or 23andMe, whatever, and he found out that he was actually dating a sibling.
So now, brother, because I want you to get this in. We only have a minute and a half before we can continue on the YouTube like we did yesterday with George Webb. But here on the radio network, I want you to get this in. And you only have you got to give me the quick 60 second. Why is the Catholic Church always right about these social moral issues? And it's not because she's mean, and it's not because she's a prude. There's a reason why her teaching is always right. Why?
Well, she understands the purposes of these things. She understands the ends of these things. And the purpose is that a husband and wife will have children in a family. It's all oriented towards family.
Right.
And ultimately, it's oriented towards eternal life by supernaturalizing that in baptism. But it's oriented towards family. This isn't a family. 5 parents is not a family. And even if it's oriented towards husband and wife having a child by these artificial technological means, that child has a right to be brought up by real mommy, real daddy, and to be conceived in marriage. It's one flesh, as Genesis, Matthew, Mark, and St. Paul all say.
Okay, so hang on. You want to hang on for a little bit? We'll talk a little bit more?
I can hang on.
All right, hang on. We're going to come back to brother. All of you listening on the Crusade Radio Network, just hop on over to the Crusade Radio Network on YouTube or find me at the King Dude on X.com. By the way, the Learny URL is mylearny.com/King Dude. See you guys tomorrow for Free Farm Friday. God bless you. Merry keep you.
I'm going where the water tastes like wine.
Okay, so 2 days in a row now, we've extended the interview yesterday with George Webb, and today we can do this on welcoming all of you on the X.com platform, where Brother began some of this controversy, and all of you watching on the Crusade Radio Network on the YouTube. Remember, only you can prevent shadow ban fires, you people. Only you can click that thumbs up button on the video. Only you can share the video on X or give it a like or retweet it. Only you can do that. I can't make you do that. If you hear good quality content and programming, I think you have a duty to do it. You know what? I'm going to put Brother on the spot. Brother, they have a duty to do this, don't they?
Well, I mean, okay, so I'm not into false moral imperatives.
All right.
But I do think that if you're convinced of the goodness of this thing, you should support it. You should support it.
And you should subscribe. It's free at Crusade on the Crusade Radio Network. And for extra credit, really extra credit, you can make a donation at crusadechannel.com/donate. We raised a whopping $8.16 yesterday. Thank the Lord for the $8.16. We would be that by that amount that much poorer. But that's not going to pay the electric or the internet bill for the month. So crusadechannel.com/donate. Brother, some of the commentary that I saw on your post on X was just, some of it is, as I said, there are a lot of people that are maleducated. I don't think they're bad people. There are bad actors out there, though, that are just, and it doesn't matter what the scenario is, they're just like invincibly stupid. And and it's because it's a teaching that comes from the Catholic Church that they cannot be dissuaded. Here's a guy I think is operating in good faith. Tom wrote you, and he said, I respectfully disagree. God makes all possible, therefore God operates through us too. And you had a good response to him. Why don't you tell the listeners and viewers how did you respond to that?
Well, okay, so keep in mind, when I'm in writing, I'm much more succinct than when I'm not. You put a 60-second limit on me before. When I go to type, I can take something and make a really good point in far less than 60 seconds.
Okay.
But when I'm talking, I got a lot of wasted words. So can you read what I said? And
I suggest you check out the links here, and you link to an episode of Reconquest. The abominable practice kills babies, separates the unitive and procreative aspects of matrimony, turns children into commodities, and otherwise ushers in an Orwellian, Huxleyan nightmare. The church is right on this issue. Before you answer, I just want to go, brother, I'm one of the people that was told, King Dude, you need to read Brave New World for Aldous Huxley. That will change your life. I got to chapter 7, brother, and I could not finish reading. It was so terrifying and so awful and horrible that I just put it down with, like, you know what? It is not incumbent. My life, I can get along without finishing Brave New World. You know what chapter 7 is? The first look at the baby factory.
Yeah,
It's horrifying.
And keep in mind, this guy came from a connected family of sort of, well, I guess what we call now deep staters, a highly influential sort of conspiratorial family. Julian Huxley's his brother. These are not good people.
No.
And here he gives this like expose of the world that they want, and it's a dystopia. I don't understand if he like Wonder Woman put her like magic lasso around him and made him write the book, or what. But or if he was taking some truth serum. But he basically exposed the horror that those very people, those elites, want to bring about. It'd be the equivalent of Bill Gates saying, "Yeah, you know, the food that I want to produce and the drugs that I'm paying for, it's going to kill you. It's awful stuff. It's like enslavement. And guess what? You get to be slaves to rich elites like me." It'd be like Gates writing a book that said that. But the point here is that, look, you asked me at the end, why is the church always right about these things? Well, because she is the guardian of the deposit of faith. She knows what God meant when he said in Genesis that the two will be one flesh.
Right.
And I don't, we don't need to get biological, but God made the male-female complementarity so that they could fit together. That's what one flesh means. And
So it's not metaphorical.
No, it's not. I mean, they become one flesh in coitus. We call it. We call it, well, let's see, I'm trying to figure out the exact name that I mean, which means coupling together. But we refer to it in terms that mean two joined as one. And the conjugal, thank you, conjugal union, right? The two are joined as one. And what results from that is offspring, right? This is what God wills. This is what he said in paradise, in the Garden of Eden. And our Lord didn't say, oh, no, that's all changed now. What happened throughout the subsequent history of humanity between Adam and Eve and our Lord? Well, lots of stuff, but polygamy became a thing. Divorce was even allowed by Moses to prevent the worst evil, moral theologians say, of uxoricide, which is wife killing. So, but what did our Lord do? He condemned the bill of divorce. He said, no more. He said it's going to be that Moses allowed you a bill of divorce, but it was not that way from the beginning. Now the church looks at from the beginning, ab initio, and says, what's the purpose there? And our Lord talks about the two in one flesh. He says it in the Gospel of St. Matthew. He says it in the Gospel of St. Mark. St. Paul is going to talk about it in Ephesians when he talks about marriage. It's the two as one flesh. So when you read, I encourage everybody, even if you're a hardcore rabid trad like I am, read the New Catechism of the Catholic Church, read paragraphs 2363, and then skip ahead to 2376 all the way up to 2379. It'll take you like 5 minutes to read it. It might take you 10 to read it slowly and go back and reread stuff you didn't catch, like words like homologous. But the New Catechism is actually quite clear and lucid on this point. And by the way, we have to go to the New Catechism because the Catechism of the Council of Trent is not going to talk about this because this particular Frankensteinian thing didn't exist then.
It couldn't have known. Now, Michael Hitchborn introduced me to her, and I think you know who she is. This was well studied, by the way, before they were corrupted by the Pontifical Center of Study for the Sciences, or whatever it's called. A woman named Judy Brown was appointed by...
Oh, Judy Brown's wonderful.
Judy Brown was appointed by His Holiness Pope St. John Paul II. Yes, I will give the proper title, you people. You can argue with me in the chat room, but His Holiness St. John Paul II, Church says he's a saint, I say he's a saint. Not for me to decide, but having said that, Judy Brown, I met her, and I talked to her, and I interviewed her when Hitchborn had his international conference on population control. And in her remarks, she talked about this. The Pontifical Institute for the Sciences studied this. JP2 asked them, will you look at that? I want you to look at this. And she medically not just morally, brother. She medically concluded that in vitro fertilization was an awful thing for humanity. Terrible. And then JP2, of course. People say that he wrote a confusing document, the second version of Humanae Vitae. I'm pretty sure there still is the prohibition against IVF in it, though, isn't there?
I don't know. When you say second version of Humanae Vitae, I'm not sure which.
He wrote something about
Evangelium Vitae, perhaps?
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Evangelium Vitae is an extremely confused document.
Okay, so it is confusing.
But not because of this. It's confusing because it's got his Voiterian, Lublin existential, personalistic stuff in it, which is just bizarre. Because he was philosophically, he was out to lunch. I said it, and I mean it.
That's fine.
Philosophically, he was out to lunch because he rejected traditional philosophy and accepted this modern amalgamation of phenomenology, existentialism, and Thomism that they call Lublin existential personalism from the University of Lublin in Poland. There are many problems with it. One of the fundamental problems is personalism, which makes everything rooted in the human person rather than in God and God's purposes and objective metaphysical reality. Which is outside of the human person. Yes, the human person is the head of the created order, in the created material order.
But brother, he got
He got this right.
He got this right. Okay, I thought so.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh no, he was good on these questions. In fact, I think the Pontifical Council you're thinking of is the Pontifical Council for Life or the Pontifical Academy for Life.
I think it was Academy for Life.
And of course, Pope Francis has actually packed it with pro-aborts. And with churchmen, ecclesiastics like Cardinal not Parolin, excuse me, I don't want to give the wrong name. I forget the name of the cardinal who's heading it. Paglia, who himself is, you'd call a prevert. The man's got serious problems, and I cite the art that he decorated his cathedral with, which had homosexuals in a net gathered up by our Lord. It was like a good thing. It was bizarre. So we have the Pontifical Academy for Life, which is actually working to cross purposes for the very reason of its being established by John Paul II. Just as, by the way, the various academies, many of them in Rome that were founded for, say, the studying biblical science, worked across purposes to what Pope Pius X established them for. So that's not a new thing. But Pope Francis is actually doing something in allowing and encouraging explicitly pro-abortion, pro-birth control, pro-contraception, pro-evil modern technologies. Well, let me revise that. Technologies that have been put to an evil purpose. He's putting people who hold that stuff in the Pontifical Academy for Life, and therefore ruining it. I mean, I don't mind going on record saying that. It's documentable. This is demonstrable.
Oh, understand. Michael Hitchburn is documented, among others. By the way, from the same Twitter feed, trying to move this ball down the field just a bit, brother, here on the Crusade Radio Network with Brother André Marie de St. Benedict Center and the host of Reconquest. By the way, folks, there was was there an episode or is there an episode coming up where you do in vitro fertilization?
So that was this week's show.
Okay, so we just heard it yesterday.
It broadcast yesterday, yeah.
Okay, I want to read from Absinthe Reverie on Twitter again. This is kind of, brother, we could treat this kind of like the old radio replies book. We'll just call it Twitter replies. Back when the GOP were revving up to announce their moral imperative to depop and depopulate and a right to IVF, Dr. Handler stated IVF would work to divorce children from marriage. Same as the pill did, sex and procreation. I think you kind of alluded to that point, but this is something I think that is very practical and very understandable, relatable, and profound. If you don't need marriage and you don't then need the conjugal act of marriage to bring children about, that you can just conveniently, you and the boyfriend could just go down to the IVF clinic because mom and dad left you $50,000 in a trust fund and go make your various donations and then go pick some poor wanton wench out there to bear your child and be the proud parents or one of the 5 proud parents of a child. Yes, this is going to lead some to choose that course, and it's already going to be normalized, and it's completely and totally legal now. So, without a countervailing force in society, civilization. If the church doesn't stand up and say this, then no one is going to say it. And you are going to have a brave new world, per Aldous Huxley, because people are going to take the look. We're humans. We take the easy way out. Virtue and living a life of virtue is hard. Living a life of sin is easy. It's a piece of cake. Gluttony requires no resistance whatsoever. It doesn't require any discipline, or maybe just a discipline to gorge yourself. So man is always going to, unfortunately, especially in an age that is populated with fake science, with voodoo and shamanism masquerading as science, is going to choose the easy way out. So I think that without people like Brother André, and he's not Father anymore, but the Reverend Pavone or whatever he is, and other people that have microphones. Yeah, I think, brother, I mean, we have a duty. If we don't scream about this, no one else is. As you just pointed out, the Vatican sure isn't.
Yeah, it's sad.
It's sad.
I mean, what happened? See, the scientist that you just quoted, who said this. By the way, Judy Brown is awesome. She's wonderful. This is the founder of the American Life League. ALL. She deliberately called it American Life League so she could have that acronym ALL because she was against compromising pro-lifers who were for exceptions. So, not to be confused with downtown Judy Brown. This is, I guess, this is the uptown Judy Brown. She's wonderful. I recommend her work. But if we
so does Billy Joel, Uptown Girl.
But oh wow! So if we examine this thing closer, the philosopher, and as soon as I start talking about philosophy, the 80 people following us on YouTube might drop down to 30. But so I'll make it quick. It's a 30-second philosophical announcement. The philosopher sees effects in their causes. Right? The philosopher is the one who says, okay, this is going to be bad because this thing will bring about this other thing. So you're thinking in terms of causality, you're thinking in terms of cause and effect, you're thinking in terms of the four causes that Aristotle gave us, formal, material, efficient, and final causality. And then when you ask your question, what is the final causality of this thing? And what's wrong with it? Well, as Brother Francis says, the empirical sciences don't ask the question why. They can't. They don't know why. And with our modern technology, with the advance of modern technology, which is impressive, we can do all kinds of things. But are they good?
That's right.
That's the question we need to ask. That's why ethics has to always be sitting there over technology to say, is this right? So one of the people who objected to what I said made this totally lame point, and I didn't jump on the person and say, you're dumb, you're just a retard. but the person said, God allowed it, so it must be okay for us to have developed this technology. At that point, I responded that you have just completely dissolved all moral responsibility, period. Because what you're saying is, if it's possible, it's good. And that's never been the moral criteria, even before this age of advanced technology. You've just completely absolved the entire human race of all moral responsibility. And you don't want to live in a world where everyone has been completely absolved of all moral responsibility. You don't want that.
No, you don't. I mean, even the world of the other day when Mrs. Chur and I were headed to Mass for the feast day of St. Augustine, she asked me what a Manichaean was. And I went, that's a really good question, dear. So I explained to her what a Manichaean was. She goes, I think we live in an age of Manichaeans. And I said, yeah. I said, well, I'd rather live in an age of Manichaeans than I think in an age of Donatists. But I don't know. If I had to pick a heresy to live in.
There's a reason that Pius X condemned modernism as the synthesis of all
heresies.
Because in attacking the very principle of revelation, everything's up for grabs. So yeah, we've got Manichaeans and Donatists and Pelagians and Jansenists. We're surrounded by them all. They're all Which is who was the Marine, the famous Marine, Chesty Puller said, when the guy said, "Sir, they've got us surrounded," he said, "Great, we got them just where we want them." anywhere we shoot, we hit the enemy.
Now, brother, I'm going to get you back to class, but I want to, and you may have heard this earlier, but
Well,
there may be.
today I have no class.
Oh, okay. Well, you're like me.
I'm finished.
I thought every day I have no class.
Sorry, I don't mean to quote Rodney Dangerfield, but yeah, I've already finished teaching, by the way.
Can you play digital media file number 1 for brother? I want brother to hear this in case he didn't hear it, and the audience to hear it for elucidation and illumination.
It is what it is. I mean, if you're religious, you have, I think, a better feeling toward it. You're supposed to go to heaven, ideally not hell, but you're supposed to go to heaven if you're good. I think our country's missing a lot of religion. I think it really was a much better place with religion. It was almost a guide, to a certain extent it was a guide. You want to be good to people. Without religion, there are no guardrails. I'd love to see us get back to religion, more religion in this country.
Now, we're going to say bad things about the messenger and about, I wish you would have done. Take it for what it's worth. If he would repeat that every day for the next 5 years, I'd kind of be happy with that. Maybe if Melania prays the rosary a little harder and he converts and becomes a Catholic. But I think you can hear in that clip there that, like many Americans of his age, brother, and certainly of today, almost everyone, there is almost a naive lack of proper formation there. Because some of the things he said, you're like, no, well, those are actually those are yes or no's, not maybes. But at least I think I could say that I agree with the sentiment.
Yeah, I think one of the keys, and I don't want to dive too much into this because somebody may be listening who's hostile to us and wants to accuse us of violating our 501c3 status. So I don't endorse candidates or parties or tell people how to vote. But looking at the moral question and looking at what it is he says and analyzing the man, I think the key to understanding Donald John Trump can be reduced to 5 words: the art of the deal.
There you go.
Everything is negotiable. Now, that's completely unacceptable. Now, for him, with his sort of biases and prejudices and so forth, I won't say principles, with his biases and prejudice and so forth, he mostly wants good things to happen. I think so. I mean, maybe I'm being an optimist, maybe I'm being naive, but I think he mostly wants a decent America. And he mostly wants, good people to be able to do good things without the government, murdering them or something, for the most part. But remember, everything's negotiable because it's all about the art of the deal. That's not the way morality works. There are absolutes, there are principles. And what's a principle? A principle is something from which other things come. That's what a principle is. When you have a moral principle, you say, yeah, this black and white, and this inviolable, and this don't touch. Okay, when the art of the deal is the way you approach reality, that's not how it works. So again, not to attack the man. I wish him well. I hope he converts. I hope he dies a Catholic and becomes a saint. I hope Melania lives her baptismal Catholicism rightly. But she's wife number 3, and how many bimbos were there between the wives and along with the wives? Everything, when morality is negotiable, that's what you get. When everything's the art of the deal, and God doesn't sit down at the table and say, okay, Donald, we're going to negotiate. Here's the 10 Commandments, but we can negotiate. That's not going to happen.
All right, we're going to wrap this up. I want to thank Brother for staying with us for a couple extra minutes here. For all of those you watching on YouTube and on X and listening on the Crusade Radio Network and on the podcast after the fact. A lot to learn here about in vitro fertilization, but I think a good part of it has been said in a short amount of time. At the end of the day, I think that this is one of these instances where you actually do want purity. Ideological, in this instance, for life, pro-life, purity, that there are things that can be taught, are taught, and can be known. And that, and in this instance, the Catholic Church has taught them. You can know them and you can live them. So you should, brother. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, Mike. God bless you and God bless our audience.
All right. God bless you too, brother.